The seductive foxwoman knew I craved her fluffy tail. She whispered, "Touch it gently or not." The first sitting. Yasmin arrived at Faisal's studio 3 days later, precisely at the hour they'd agreed upon. The space occupied the top floor of an old building in the Babtuma quarter, exposed brick walls adorned with half-finished canvases, afternoon light streaming through tall windows that overlooked terracotta rooftops. The smell of linseed oil and turpentine hung in the air like incense. "It's smaller than I imagined," she said, removing her hijab to reveal the full cascade of her hair. The gesture felt intimate, deliberate. "Most artists' studios are," Faisal replied, arranging his easel. His hands trembled slightly as he selected brushes. "We pour everything into the work, leaving little for ourselves." She moved through his space with graceful curiosity, pausing before a painting of Damascus at dusk, his last completed piece before the creative drought. "This one breathes. Why did you stop?" "I started painting what people wanted to see, instead of what I needed to say." He met her gaze. "I forgot how to be honest." Yasmin settled onto the velvet chair he'd positioned near the window. Sunlight painted gold across her features, highlighting the elegant curve of her neck, the fullness of her lips. "Then be honest now. What do you see?" Faisal mixed colors on his palette, burnt sienna, raw umber, touches of crimson. "I see a woman pretending to be content. I see eyes that have learned to hide their hunger because someone told her wanting was shameful." Her breath caught audibly. "You see too much. That's what frightened you in the cafe, isn't it? Being seen." For 2 hours they existed in comfortable silence, broken only by the whisper of brush against canvas and occasional murmured adjustments. But the air between them crackled with unspoken words, with the weight of truths hovering just beyond articulation. "Tell me about your engagement," Faisal said suddenly, not looking up from his work. Yasmin's composure fractured for just a moment. "How did you—" "The ring you keep touching, the way you hold yourself like someone fulfilling obligations rather than desires." He finally met her eyes. "I paint what I see, remember?" She rose from the chair, crossing to stand behind him, viewing his interpretation of her emerging on canvas. He'd captured something raw, not just beauty, but yearning. The figure on the canvas looked like a woman on the edge of breaking free or breaking apart. "His name is Rashid, wealthy, respectable, chosen by my family." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "And I feel nothing when he touches my hand." Faisal's brush stilled. "And when I accidentally brushed your wrist helping you with your coat? I felt everything." The confession hung between them like a held breath. Slowly, Yasmin reached out, her fingers hovering near his shoulder before finally making contact. The touch seared through the thin fabric of his shirt. "This is dangerous," he murmured, though he didn't pull away. "Yes," she agreed, her hand sliding down his arm. "Paint me again tomorrow?"
The unveiling. The next afternoon brought rain, rare for Damascus in autumn, the kind of rain that turned the city silver and introspective. Yasmin arrived drenched despite her umbrella, droplets clinging to her eyelashes like diamonds. "You're shivering," Faisal said, grabbing a blanket from his threadbare sofa. "I'm fine," but she accepted the blanket, their fingers touching in the exchange. Neither pulled away this time. He made tea while she dried off, the domestic intimacy of the act not lost on either of them. When he returned with 2 steaming glasses, he found her standing before yesterday's portrait, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. "Yasmin, no one has ever seen me like this." She touched the canvas gently, reverently. "Not my parents, not Rashid, not even myself. How did you?" Faisal set down the tea and moved beside her. "Because I recognize the cage. I've been living in one too, painting what sells instead of what burns inside me, existing instead of living." His hand found hers. "We're the same, you and I, trapped in lives that look right but feel wrong." She turned to face him fully, their bodies inches apart. Rain drummed against the windows, cocooning them in gray intimacy. "I'm supposed to marry him in 6 weeks. The invitations are printed. My wedding dress hangs in my closet like a beautiful prison." "What do you want, Yasmin? Not what your family wants, not what's expected. What do you want?" The question seemed to unlock something in her. She closed the remaining distance between them, her hand rising to cup his jaw. "I want to feel alive before I bury myself in a respectable death." "This will complicate everything," he breathed against her lips. "Good. I'm tired of simple and empty." Their first kiss was gentle, questioning, a tentative exploration of permission and possibility. But when she made a soft sound of need against his mouth, something shifted. His hands tangled in her damp hair, her fingers clutched his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, became urgent, became a conversation their words had been dancing around for days. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Yasmin rested her forehead against his. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I," Faisal admitted. "I only know I haven't felt this real in years." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "Paint me again, but this time paint me as I am in this moment, not the woman I pretend to be." He guided her back to the chair, but this time she sat differently, less posed, more present. As he worked, she began to talk, about dreams deferred for family honor, about poetry she wrote in secret, about nights spent staring at her ceiling, wondering if comfortable unhappiness was better than risking everything for uncertain joy.
The surrender. The third session arrived with golden afternoon light that transformed Faisal's studio into a cathedral of amber and shadow. Yasmin entered differently this time. No hesitation in her step, no pretense in her posture. She locked the door behind her. "The portrait is nearly finished," Faisal said, though they both knew she hadn't come for the painting. "I know." She crossed to him slowly, deliberately. "I've been thinking about nothing else but you for 3 days, about your hands, about the way you see me, about how alive I feel in this room." Faisal set down his brush with trembling fingers. "Yasmin, if we cross this line, I'm already across it." She reached up, fingers threading through his paint-streaked hair. "I was across it the moment you asked what I truly wanted. No one has ever asked me that before." He cupped her face with both hands, thumbs tracing the elegant line of her cheekbones. "I want you more than I've wanted anything, but I need you to be certain. Once we do this, there's no going back to pretending we're just artist and subject. I don't want to go back. I want to go forward, even if it means falling." She pulled him down into a kiss that held none of yesterday's tentative questioning. This was declaration, was claiming, was surrender. They stumbled backward together, knocking over a jar of brushes that clattered forgotten to the floor. Faisal's back hit the wall, and Yasmin pressed against him, her body fitting perfectly against his, as though they'd been carved from the same desperate longing. His hands roamed the curve of her spine, the dip of her waist, discovering the reality of what he'd only painted in abstract desire. She broke the kiss only to whisper against his throat, "I want to feel everything I've denied myself. I want to stop being careful." He swept her into his arms, carrying her to the old sofa draped with paint-stained sheets. She pulled him down with her, their bodies tangling together as clothes became obstacles to be navigated with urgent, clumsy tenderness. Each newly revealed inch of skin was a revelation. The softness of her shoulder, the warmth of her stomach, the way she gasped when his lips found the sensitive hollow of her collarbone. "You're beautiful," he murmured against her skin. "So impossibly beautiful." "Don't just look at me," she breathed, arching into his touch. "See me, feel me, make me real." Their lovemaking was both gentle and desperate, two souls recognizing themselves in each other,
two prisoners breaking free in the same moment. She traced the muscles of his back, mapping him with her fingertips as he'd mapped her with brushstrokes. He worshipped every curve, every sigh, every trembling response, painting pleasure across her skin with kisses and caresses. When she cried out his name, it sounded like prayer and profanity mixed together, something sacred and forbidden all at once. He followed her over the edge moments later, burying his face in her neck, breathing her name like an incantation against her racing pulse. Afterward, they lay wrapped in paint-splattered sheets, the studio bathed in the orange glow of approaching sunset. Yasmin traced lazy patterns on his chest, her hair spilling across his shoulder like dark silk. "I have to tell Rashid. I have to call off the wedding." Faisal's arms tightened around her. "Your family will be furious. There will be scandal, gossip, consequences." "I know." She lifted her head to meet his gaze, and he saw steel beneath the softness. "I finally understand what you meant about painting honestly. I can't live a lie anymore, no matter how beautiful the frame."
The morning after. Dawn crept through the studio windows, painting everything in shades of rose and gold. Faisal woke to find Yasmin already awake, sitting wrapped in his shirt, staring at the completed portrait that somehow finished itself during yesterday's passion. Or perhaps it had been finished all along, waiting only for them to become what it depicted. "It's perfect," she said softly as he joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You painted me free before I knew how to be free." The woman in the portrait gazed out with unveiled longing, with courage, with the fierce determination of someone choosing herself. It was Yasmin as she truly was, beneath the layers of expectation and duty. "What happens now?" he asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. She leaned back into his embrace. "Now I face my family. Now I return Rashid's ring and endure his wounded pride. Now I become the scandalous woman who broke an engagement 6 weeks before the wedding." She turned in his arms. "Now I choose the terrifying, exhilarating uncertainty of following my heart instead of my obligations." "I don't have much to offer," Faisal admitted. "A struggling artist's life, a cramped studio, uncertain income. You offer honesty. You offer seeing me and being seen. You offer waking up beside someone who makes me feel alive instead of dutiful." She kissed him softly. "That's everything, Faisal. That's the only wealth that matters." They made love again as Damascus woke around them, slower this time, savoring each touch as both celebration and promise. When they finally dressed, Yasmin picked up her phone, staring at it for a long moment. "I'm frightened," she confessed. "So am I." He took her hand. "But I'd rather be frightened and alive with you than safe and dying slowly in a respectable cage." She made the first call, to Rashid. He could only hear her side, but it was enough. Firm, apologetic, final. The second call to her parents was harder. He heard her voice crack, heard her crying as she explained she couldn't marry a man she didn't love, that she'd met someone who saw her soul. The calls left her shaking, but there was also relief in her tears, the relief of truth finally spoken. "My mother hung up on me," Yasmin said, falling into his arms. "My father says I've shamed them. Rashid called me selfish and ungrateful." "I'm so sorry," Faisal whispered into her hair. "Don't be," she pulled back, and despite the tears, she was smiling. "For the first time in my life, I chose myself. I chose love. I chose truth over comfort. I chose you, and I would make the same choice every single time." They stood in the morning light, holding each other, as the city hummed to life below. Two people who'd found each other by accident and chosen each other on purpose, ready to face whatever consequences came from painting their lives honestly, boldly, in colors that sang instead of whispered. That afternoon, Faisal sold the portrait to a gallery owner who called it his masterpiece. The money would help them start fresh, but more than that, the painting would hang in a gallery window where hundreds would see it,
a woman captured in the moment of choosing freedom, a testament to the courage it takes to love authentically. As they walked through Damascus hand in hand, ignoring stares and whispers, Yasmin squeezed his fingers. "Teach me to paint? Why?" "Because I want to learn to see the world as you do, full of honest color instead of polite grays." He kissed her forehead. "We'll learn together. I'll teach you to paint, and you'll teach me to be brave." Lessons. True love demands the courage to choose authenticity over comfort, to risk judgment for the sake of living honestly rather than existing safely in beautiful cages of others' expectations. The deepest intimacy blooms when two souls recognize their reflection in each other and decide that being truly seen is worth more than being acceptably invisible. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not finding someone who completes you, but finding someone who inspires you to complete yourself, to become the person you are always meant to be.